Hello, Bill Molyneux here in Bill's world of history and wargaming, and once again I'm doing another video on Fort Frederick near Hagerstown, Maryland, Big Pool Springs. But today we're going to hit the CCC, the Conservation Corp. I know very little, so I need to bring in an expert. So here we are at the museum, and we have Dan, Park Ranger Dan here. And he's going to tell us everything we need to know about the CCC and how they helped with this fort. Take it away, Dan.
All right, well, as you've seen, we got our nice building here. It's our current CCC museum, which was actually the original park headquarters for the state park, Fort Frederick. We'll head inside and talk about some things.
All right. All right, well, we're inside the museum for the CC, and I'm going to shut up and let Dan take over.
All right, so what you'll see in here, as we talked about, this was the original park headquarters, but we're now using it as the museum of what the Civilian Conservation Corps did while they were actively building the first state park here in Maryland. And each of these display cases are showing some good shots of the work they did, pictures of the men, and even some of the artifacts that were found when they did their minor archaeology. The unfortunate part that happened is they did not do any proper archaeology at the time. It was the 30s, and the archaeologist that was hired to come down, he did not show up immediately. So while they were waiting for him, the camp being run by the Army, and the Army officers, which there's a few pictures of these gentlemen over here, you can see their World War I style there. And as any good army, they've got a bunch of young men sitting around with nothing to do, so they tell them to start digging trenches. So they're just digging trenches in the fort, finding artifacts, tossing them as they go.
What did they do with these artifacts? Are they in the museum? Did they throw them away?
It's kind of a mixed bag there, as far as some of the artifacts are here and some are put away and going to show up in future exhibits and displays, and other things we're not sure if they didn't properly, they tossed them or what. So it's a little unfortunate. So a lot of work is done though on the park itself. They rebuild the walls. About 30% of the walls need to be rebuilt because the fort had been a farm for a good time from prior to the Civil War up into the early 1900s. So they do a lot of that work, and they build all these outbuildings here. So a building like this, and over now what's the camp store was the caretaker's house. Behind that is a full working blacksmith shop, because they actually make all the hardware in the park. So all your iron hardware and everything, they have a full working blacksmith shop that they're making.
They actually made the hinges and stuff.
They're making all the hinges, all the hardware. And
well,
I find that pretty.
Now, as a tourist walking in, the thing that caught my eye is, what's this giant sign? It looks like it's metal.
Yes, so it's one of the plates from back in the day when you get your hang on, I lost the words there. Your historical markers you see from back then.
And was this like out on the road at one time, or?
That I don't know.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool sign, being made out of metal and all. So if I'm coming to visit the fort and this museum, what stands out? I think I was told at one time there was an apple orchard in the fort.
Yes, and there's a good picture here where you can see the trees actually in the fort.
Wow, and there's no buildings.
No. So when the C's actually restore the fort and build the park, like I said, they build all the roads, all the outside buildings, including the pavilion and the bathhouses and such. But they find the foundations of the three buildings, and there's a few shots you can see even in this lower portion here and such. So they find the foundations for the two barracks and the officers' quarters, but they do not rebuild those buildings. Those barracks are rebuilt during the bicentennial, so the 1975-76, when America gets a lot of money together and starts getting pumped up for the 20th anniversary. There's a lot of projects that happen throughout the park system. So we're very thankful that they were able to get those done at that time. So,
Can I ask a couple more questions? I know you have a fort to watch, but how many men worked on this fort, and how long were they here? A couple months or a year?
as far as the number of men, I do not know how many were here. It was a good number because they had at least 3 full barracks, but so I'm not sure on the size of the company. But they were here from 34 to 37, so they were here for about 4 years. And
Wow, that's a long time. Did they get to go home and see their families, or were they here just like in the military?
They were here like the military. They could get a leave pass and such, but with travel and limited funds, it's not common that they're going home, but they could get leave. More likely what they would get is some of the weekends they organize some dances, or if they could go over to the close town like Hancock, Maryland, maybe Hagerstown if they can get a ride. So they do get a little bit of free time on the weekends. So that type of stuff is happening.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you close this out. Is there anything else you want to tell my YouTube fans before we say goodbye?
Well, big thing, if you haven't been here to Fort Frederick, definitely come out and see it. If you haven't been in a long time, we've reinterpreted some spaces and we're continually expanding everything, including the C's, which is totally new, started last year, where we're doing living history of the CCC boys and starting to tell this story because we're almost at 90 years.
That's right. I think I've seen you in a CC uniform in the
Yeah.
blue dungarees working.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to put on the old denim and sometimes the wool shirt and get out and do things like they did in the 30s.
And a lot of my viewers know I do French Indian War reenacting as French. And what's going to happen here in a few weeks?
We'll be having our annual French and Indian War muster in late August, and that'll be a good time because we'll have French and Native forces outside the fort, and we'll have several provincial troops here at the fort.
Well, now maybe this year my French forces will take this fort and you guys will be captured and surrendered.
It'll be exciting.
I highly doubt that'll happen.
Right.
Anyhow, Dan, thank you for taking the time doing this video, and stay safe, be kind, be courteous, and come visit Fort Frederick. Get off the couch. Thank you.